Are we on YouTube? That funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live on Newswire on Facebook, Twitch, and I think we even made it on YouTube until the producer Jesse gets his wish and we get kicked off of that again so he doesn't have to type it in. Oh, see, I'm bad at keeping those kind of secrets of going on. But no, it's another fun day of everything going on. Hopefully this time and last time we had a problem come up at the last minute, hopefully we'll have Assemblyman Kevin Kiley coming up after the bottom of the hour. Let me get that out. So give us an update on Gavin Newsom's recall and all the shenanigans and things going on at the state legislature. Back and forth. We got some updates. We are not carrying Nursing Home Joe's speech from the White House. For one thing, it probably will last less than a 30-second commercial and probably will be less informative than a 30-second commercial. So we'll let him go through the gaps and pops and weaves and bobs and do's and yeahs and knees see how they prop up Slow Joe on the first actual state, what are we into, March 11th? And almost 2 months into his presidency, and he finally holds one time a press conference or addresses the nation of that, and who knows what sort of stuff we got going on. But we got more important stuff to deal with on that. We got a governor to recall. Now there's 2 DAs, one in Los Angeles and the one in San Francisco, district attorneys, county district attorneys that are facing recall because they had to wait 90 days for them. And they're kind of chimed up. We might get into that a little bit, and hopefully we're going to see if we can get, we've had her on before, Jennifer Van Laar of Red State. Maybe we'll be able to get her tomorrow. She just uncovered some tapes from George Gascon, the DA in LA County, that are absolutely amazing of what they really think of you. And that's one of the things that is going on. But to kind of address that, and we'll get into the California recall and stuff like that. But if we don't have laws, if we don't put heinous criminals behind bars, if we don't point out who the true racists are in these situations, we will really regret that. And on top of some of the just absolutely nutty stuff of George Gascon dropping the charges or not letting DAs charge people that kill kids with the death penalty, trying to drop the charges or not prosecuting this, that, and every other thing. And the whole racism things comes up. This was a mom that called into the Larry O'Connor show on KABC 790 on Tuesday. We're going to run about 2 minutes of the audio of this, and you won't believe it, I don't think. So here we go.
Effort is officially underway now, as it takes 90 days from Election Day, so that's where we are right now. Joining us to begin the case for getting rid of George Gascon is a very courageous woman. I'm so honored to speak with her. Jessica Corday, mother of Marquis LeBlanc, whose killer was just granted parole last month by George Gascon. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And did I pronounce your son's name right? I just want to make sure. Is it Marquis or Marcus?
It's Marquis LeBlanc.
Marquis, thank you very much. I know this is painful, but you have decided that this is your mission, and you are being so courageous in telling your story. So please share your story with the people of KABC right now. Tell us about what happened to Marquis.
Well, Marquis had found a party on MySpace, and he went to the party. And he showed up, and he was the only black. And because we lived in a predominantly white neighborhood, he went with his white friend and his Latino friend because he didn't have a lot of black friends. Well, he showed up to this party, and they were all Latinos, and there was a gang there called the Mexican Tito Killers, which is mean the Mexican Black Killers. And they approached my son. They surrounded him on the dance floor. He crawled. They were beating him and stomping him. He tried to crawl in the house. The lady that was in the house tried to help him, but she couldn't. She told him to run. So he ran. He ran like 100 yards, and it was a minimum of 14. This is witness testimony, and a maximum of 20 beating my son. They chased him 100 yards. The particular murderer that they want to grant parole to, his name is Martin Harrow. He chased my son. He's the one that initially caught my son, but he also beat him at the party. In the parole hearing, he said the only thing that he did that night was show up black. We hated black people. We didn't see them as humans. We felt disrespected that a nigger would show up at our party. They chased my son 100 yards. He caught him. He said, I beat him and I stomped him and I beat him until the homeboys came and did the rest. My son had blunt force trauma to the head, multiple fatal stab wounds, multiple non-fatal stab wounds, a gunshot wound to the head. They robbed him. They disrobed him. They left him in the street naked, and they stole his shoes. And I couldn't get any help from my son because had my son been killed by a white person or a cop, the world would have been angry. But at that point, the only person that was outraged was me. It was 14 people arrested, 10 convicted because they couldn't really figure out who did what because they were all on top of him. And they were convicted. It took 14 to 20 people to kill my son, 12 people to convict him, and only 2 to say they get to go free. And I'm angry, I'm hurt because they gave me 1 week, just 1 week to prepare. They didn't tell me that he was coming up for parole.
So, the very sobering story from Mom Jessica Corday, whose son was murdered, Marcus LeBlanc, only because of the shade of skin tone of his skin. Hispanics called him a nigger, and we're going to kill him. We're going to call these things just as we are because that's the words they used. And as Jessica pointed out, if this was a white person or a cop, they would have been hanged upside down in the middle of the public square, flogged and everything else. You haven't heard hardly diddly squat about this. Yet DA George Gascon asked for parole for Martin Harrow, who was part of this mob that killed Marquise LeBlanc. Now, where is the outrage in the Black Lives Matters community? Where's all these Klondikes that call racist and this and that? You seen them on this page call me a racist like 9,472 times. Where are those same people that are... Where was their outrage on this? Where were they pointing out the real racism in that? You won't hear that. I don't know what the voters of Los Angeles County were thinking when they put George Gascon in as DA and replaced with Jackie Lacey, who happened to be black, or darker skin tone, darker shade of brown than George Gascon, who is white. But he's pulled this crap when he was DA up in San Francisco with Gavin Newsom. He's pulled this crap, now come down in L.A. and campaigned backing, and you want to say it, with George Soros's money, was a big funder of Gascon, and they ridiculed Jackie Lacey, saying she's putting black people, Hispanics in jail unnecessarily, part of the power structure. Blah, da, 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 da. No, Jackie Lacey, which I didn't agree with a lot, but was at least she had enough integrity to prosecute real criminals, real crimes. And if this wasn't a hate crime, there is no definition of a hate crime. This is why just for the nuts and bolts of this, once you're elected, from the day you're sworn in, they cannot recall you 90 days afterwards. That's why yesterday, I believe, was the 90th day George Gascon was sworn in as district attorney, and the recall effort for him was on too. So they filed the papers on the first day possible. Of that. And this stuff doesn't stop there. Pull up number 4, please, real quick. I want to see this in the California Globe. San Francisco's elects son of cop-killing terrorists as district attorney. Chesa Bowden, raised in Chicago by weather-ground leaders Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dornan while his parents were in prison. How does a radical leftist lawyer raised by Chicago weather underground Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dorn get elected San Francisco District Attorney? Chelsea Bowden, who was Hugo Chavez's trusted propagandist and translator and advisor, Cuba groomed from the start, and is now commanding an apparently unbeatable lead in San Francisco's attorney's race, Monica Showalter of American Thinker said. On top of that, they replaced George Gascon, who was district attorney in San Francisco and then became, in this election cycle, district attorney in L.A. County. They replaced him with another Marxist propagandist for Cuba, Chelsea Bowden. Chelsea Bowden is now the subject of a recall effort on that same 90th day. Flip up number 4, please. Same in the California Globe. I wanted to set the stage. This is by Evan Simon. March 10th, recall petition signatures for collection to begin at San Francisco DA Chelsea Bowden. San Francisco is united in its desire to move on from a failure of Bowden's experiment. So this is the consequences of electing people, putting people in power, or following those based on 100% emotion. Because emotion doesn't differentiate between the lie or the truth or anything in between. You just keep yelling. You just keep saying it loud, long enough, like the old adage. You tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth. Straight white male, bad. Evil. Every ill of the world is caused because of them. You make them hate us. And you make anybody that resembles freedom, liberty, and individual choice, you make them hate that. Then once you have them stirred up into a frenzy and say, yeah, they're after you. They're gonna, if they don't put you in jail, they're going to kill you. They're going to abuse you on the job. They're going to make you work for slave wages. They have no interest but in enriching themselves and stomping on you. They tell the big lie. And then they told it long enough. And this is how you wind up with the elections of Nursing Home Joe Marxist dictator leaders who will ask for parole for someone who beat a kid to death based only on his shade of skin tone. Now, just as the Gavin Newsom recall effort is winding down, or about ready, well, not winding down, getting close to the signatures and verification, well, turning in the signatures, drop dead date line is March 17th. If you do have petitions, make sure you get them. Look on the Recall Gavin 2020 website. Go to your registrar of voters. Get a hold of a county coordinator. Do not mail in any more petitions. There's not enough time to do it. You got to get them directly in the hands of people. We'll have an update on the count here coming on the show. But as that winds down, now we're beginning the recall efforts of the odious district attorneys that have pulled this in San Francisco and Los Angeles, George Cascone and Chelsea Bowden. And you've heard that other racist head of the UTLA, Cicely Myers Cruz, said, oh, it was only the rich whites and Middle Easterns that wanted their kids to go back to school. The rest of the parents didn't want to go back to school, citing unsafe and yada, yada, yada. Using the word racist. We're going to expose the real racists. This is what you call evidence number 4, please. This is a Gallup poll that was just released today. Amid pandemic, 79% of K through 12 parents support in-person school. It's by Megan Brennan of that, Washington, D.C., nearly 1 year into the panic, and estimated 1 in 3 K through 12 students in the U.S. do not currently have any options for in-person schooling. Many frustrated parents have been vocally pushing for the return to the classroom, citing concerns about the damage to their children's academic progress, psychological health, and social development. And Gallup's latest data find 79% of parents of K through 12 students in the U.S. favor in-person learning in their communities right now. As we speak Saturday, parents in South Central Los Angeles, part of the United Teachers of the Los Angeles LA Unified School District area, are going to be holding a big rally saying we want our kids back in school. And just on the statistics, most of the people in there that live in that area probably are on the darker scale of the brown skin tone. So this blows the paradigm or the rhetoric or the big lie that parents do not want their kids going back to school. That it's racist whites and Middle Easterns that are pushing that particular adage. Just like you cannot be racist unless you are considered white. Tell that to Jessica Corday, mom of Marcus LeBlanc, who was murdered just because he was black by Hispanics who have a gang that's specifically formed to kill black people. He showed up at their party not knowing that and did exactly what their gang affiliation organization said they were going to do. This is more of the Gallup poll. Pull up number 4, please. This cuts across every economic, geographic, any sort of thing you want, any sort of dynamic you want to do. Here's the more statistics on the Gallup poll that 79% of K through 12 parents support in-person school. Doesn't matter. Unemployment status, working, 82% support it, 18% don't. Not working, 71% support it, 29% don't. Party identification, Republican, 94% support it, 6% support getting kids back in class, 6% don't. Independent, 80-20. Democrat, even Democrat, 62-38. Across the regions, no matter, 72% is the lowest, 90% is the highest. In the Northeast is the highest, which is heavily Democratic, and it's at 90%. They want their kids to return to school to 10%. So, who's telling the big lies? As we pointed out in Gavin Newsom's State of the State speech, you can always hear when Gavin Newsom, let's take the school example. He was talking about, well, how he emphasizes with parents and he has 4 kids that go to school and we want them back in the class. You cannot empathize with that, Gavin Newsom. And he had that little chuckle grin laughing that you can tell that. He does it every time he knows he's telling something that's not true. And he chuckled right that because his kids are in a private school, in class, in a classroom, with a teacher. Not a teacher, not in class with a teacher that's remotely in of that and yada, yada, yada. No. He cannot empathize with the majority of the people that are suffering the consequences of his orders. That's why I think it's 33%. According to the recall, Gavin Newsom, folks, 33% of the over 2 million now that have signed the recall petition are Democrats and independents. Gavin Newsom in his State of the State was trying to say, oh, there's these factions out there or something. He didn't even know what he was referring to. He's saying, oh, yeah, it's those Trump-supporting white guys that are out there that are signing this petition to recall me. That's what the code word was. But Gavin Newsom doesn't have guts enough to say it straight out. It's really, 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 really tough. To endure the insult we are under. But endure it we must, but we are taking action. I said we need to nationalize these elections. California is going to lead the way. Not only are we going to recall that idiot lying sack of bleep governor, We're going to start recalling district attorneys in Los Angeles and San Francisco. And as I rolled up to the county of supervisors on Tuesday, and I told them we really don't like doing this, or I did a couple of Tuesdays ago, we really don't like doing this, and it takes a lot of effort. But in order to protect our kids and put them back into class and give them an education, to save our jobs, our businesses, to stop kids and adult suicide, to get rid of these draconian lockdowns, control from all this stuff. If you don't get on the stick and start doing what's right for the people, we are going to have to recall you. I bet you the people of New York wish they had a recall effort and didn't have to depend on their state legislatures to impeach Governor Andrew Cuomo, Gavin Newsom's evil twin, over not only the sexual misconduct allegations, but trying to cover up, it looks like, him sending COVID-positive nursing home patients back to the nursing home facilities from the hospital, not only to their certain deaths by the tens of thousands, but infecting either more in our most vulnerable population. This is, well, I just flip up the headline. It's in the LA Times and it's courtesy of Yahoo News. Why LA Orange counties will reopen faster than Ventura, Riverside, and San Diego counties. I didn't tell you why. They didn't put it in the article. Because LA and Orange County have more votes. That would be favorable to Gavin Newsom. Yes, even the once red county that was considered strictly Republican and is now majority Democrat, and Gavin Newsom, the only reason you're getting this little cookie from Gavin Newsom, oh, well, we'll start opening up, putting the pressure now that now that he's about to get recalled, trying to put the pressure on LA Teachers Association, which came to a non-agreement, tentatively, to open the schools. The only reason that is happening is because Gavin Newsom's trying to save his own little hiney. And he knows Ventura, Riverside, San Diego counties are less likely to vote for him, so he'll just try and put the pressure on those where he knows he can mine the most votes to stave off the recall. As we do this, and as we go through this, there is no way that we will ever turn this situation around.
30 seconds.
Unless we cannot buy any of the rhetoric or stop now. Now we've got to recall Gavin Newsom, George Gascon, Chelsea Bowden, and everybody else that's standing in our way. We're going to fire the first salvo up in California.
Here we go, guys. 10 seconds. .com.
OEM Supply King. We got it!
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday at 5:30 on the Mighty Red KMET 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire on the aforementioned AM band. Joining our vast video audience all across the board on IE Newswire, going across the channels. We missed him last Thursday, but we got him back today. He's the author of the book Recall Newsom, the Canada's most corrupt governor, and I think that's understating the case by a lot. But Assemblyman Kevin Kiley, welcome to IE Newswire with Roy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure, although, our friend over on the East Coast seems to be providing a little competition for that title these days.
Exactly. We've been on top of that more and more each day. I call them the evil twin governors, Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, it is interesting how their fortunes have turned. I mean, at the beginning of this, Newsom was desperately competing with Cuomo to try to get a bit of the national spotlight, and now they're competing over who can be removed from office first.
Exactly. The latest I have is we are over 2 million signatures and counting still on the recall of Gavin Newsom, barring some really, really, really shady shenanigans. The recall of Gavin Newsom looks like it's it's got about a 98.7% chance of a go. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, the organizers are confident that we've gotten enough signatures at the current validation rate, which is in the low 80s. We have a pretty comfortable cushion. It looks like by the time of the deadline, will probably be around 2.1 million signatures. It's 2,060,000 right now. So it's it's truly an extraordinary number. There's never been, I don't believe, any petition that's gathered that many signatures in California history, and I haven't even heard of an example in U.S. history. We've never seen a grassroots citizens movement on this scale.
No, I can. And I've heard statistics coming in from a lot of places. There's never been. Well, once this is stamped official, it will be the biggest grassroots referendum, bottom-up signature gathering from the people in the history of the United States.
Yeah, and that is, a testament, I think, not just to, Gavin Newsom's ability to really motivate people to take action against him, but also to the deep-seated desire for fundamental change in California that this recall is really, at the end of the day, all about.
I don't. Are you they're just by their actions, their verbiage, their facial expressions. They'll give you an indication a lot of times of if they've got a good hand, bad hand, medium hand. Gavin Newsom on his State of the State, and we pointed it out in a State of the State address, and in a lot of things. But I'm going to take the biggest example was the schools when he addressed that issue. He said, I have empathy for all of you. I have 4 children in school and the distance learning and da-da-da-da-da. When he said that, he gets that laugh, chuckle, every time he's telling a lie because he has no empathy for the average Californian or American because his kids are in school with a teacher in the classroom while most of you do not have that ability, and in California, directly because of Gavin Newsom's orders.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's a very important point, is that, Gavin Newsom is one of only a few governors in the country that issued any kind of statewide school closure order at all, and that order is still operative and preventing schools from opening. It's preventing one of the schools in my district, Folsom Cordova School District, from opening. Whereas other states are, going in the opposite direction and have actually made their schools open as they're supposed to. This shouldn't even have to be something we debate or negotiate. That's what they're there for, to be open and offer kids, the opportunity for in-person instruction. So if you actually look at the numbers on this, California is dead last, 50th out of 50, in getting kids back into the classroom. The latest numbers are California is at about 14% of kids have the option of in-person instruction. Several states are at 100% or 99%. I believe over 40 states now have over half of their kids with the option of in-person instruction. California, 50th out of 50, 14%, because Gavin Newsom is that much more corrupt, that much more captured by special interests than any other governor in the country.
Exactly, and I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Gallup poll that just came out today. 79% of parents with K through 12 kids want their schools open with teachers in the classroom like it was before we started all this mess. And as you pointed out, we are in dead last in kids in the classroom. The biggest state in the United States of America, probably most powerful, most everything, most influential, and we are at the bottom of this and practically every other category when it comes up. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
You're right about that, and that's actually true. Before COVID, in many ways, highest poverty, highest homelessness, about the worst inequality, about the worst achievement gaps in our schools, and it's been true during COVID. Worst lockdowns, worst school closures. We had the worst vaccination rates for a while. Certainly the biggest disaster with our unemployment office, and the list goes on. And it's interesting. Failed State of the State address the other day, which has been panned across the spectrum, across the board. The governor, as he's wont to do, he always, cites what he considers to be good things with absolute numbers, total numbers, and bad things with per capita numbers. So, he'll cite the number of vaccinations with the total number, and then he'll cite deaths on the per capita numbers. And, it's a little perverse to start with, to be going up and boasting in the middle of a baseball stadium about your per capita death rate and comparing it to other states. But actually, he wasn't even telling the truth. California is middle of the pack, despite having the strictest lockdowns in the country. If you're a senior in California, our seniors have been more likely to die of COVID than seniors in Florida have, which has been open. Our kids have been more likely to contract COVID-19 in California, where we've had the worst school closures, than kids in Florida have when they've been in school 5 days a week since last fall.
Yeah, that's what you call real-world evidence. Science is not a factor. It's somebody projecting or in a lot of cases. And when they say you got to follow the science, well, the science you can make it. You can get an expert, kind of like a lawyer, to give you any kind of opinion you want, if you pay them enough. Or but we have. You just pointed to the real-world data, like we do on this show, and many others do all the time. These are what we don't have to guess. We don't have to follow the science. We got a year of this, and we got a lot of people that did it a lot of different ways, and it has been shown Gavin Newsom on practically every issue on this thing has been on the wrong side of that, if for no other reason. And I think it's up to 30, and this is why I believe 33% of Democrats and independents of that 2 million that have signed the petition are in that party. That is not part of the vast right-wing conspiracy, I don't think.
Well, no, and the governor's he actually used his State of the State to try to criticize the recall, which is questionable in and of itself. He calls it a partisan power grab. But if that was truly what this was, then what is he worried about? Republicans are not a large percentage of the voting population in California. If it were just partisan, he definitely knows it's anything but that. He knows that this is driven by something that really transcends partisanship, that this is not just the greatest citizens movement in California, but also the most diverse one. That's the reason he's so worried. That's the reason he's panicking. That's the reason he's basically, because I think support is only continuing to grow.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that, and that's why we got to keep the rhetoric, because let's face it, based on a purely politics thing, strategy. Newsom, the Democratic Party, the extreme left wing that got George Gascon and Chelsea Bowden elected DAs that are now facing a recall too, of that, they're going to pull out all the stops. They're going to do everything they can to run the false narrative rhetoric that we can. So we've got to stay diligent. Once this recall gets on the ballot, we got to stay diligent. We cannot, just because Gavin Newsom might give us a cookie and hope will go away, we've got to finish the deal.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Well, I mean, and this is going to be the next phase, is that if we have the signatures, which I think we do, then there's going to be an election, and that's something that every California voter has a chance to participate in, and it's going to be a single election. It's not like a ballot that has a million things on it. The entire state's attention, and in many ways, I bet the attention of the nation, even global attention, could be concentrated on this question, which will be first and foremost a referendum on the status quo. Do you want to keep Newsom or do you not? Is this person fit to remain our governor? Or is he not? And I think that, the California voters will have an opportunity to send a very powerful message and make an extremely important change and really, change the trajectory of our state in a way that, a lot of people think might be overdue, but it might have just taken this last year, the nightmare of this last year, to really get us to the point where we now can, provide the sort of fundamental course correction I think our state needs.
And you've kind of hit on a point, and I said this about a month ago. We need to nationalize this recall of Gavin Newsom, because not only can it be an emphasis for turning California around, but we're so influential. And like I said, don't let the cancer of California spread across the nation. You're seeing it in gas prices and everything else going up because of that. I think we can use, if we work an effective strategy not only in California but nationwide, we can use this not only as the strategy, as the launching point, and maybe go down in history where they could see that, where you see this turning point comes. And I think at this point, this is where we need to go. What's your thoughts, Kevin?
Well, sure. I mean, Gavin Newsom has delusionally tried to tout California as the roadmap to success for the Biden administration. On the day of Biden's inauguration, he wrote him this letter, which I found 16 falsehoods in, suggesting that California's quote-unquote policy innovations were a guide to the rest of the country. But it's exactly the opposite, as you say. California is a warning to the rest of the country about what happens when your government is totally corrupted in the way that ours is, and in the way that Gavin Newsom, exemplifies. So I absolutely think that the recall can provide that warning to the rest of the country, not to go down California's path.
We got about a minute left. I'll let you tell them where they can get your book. Wrap it up. Tell them how they can follow you on the social media or wherever you want. You got a minute left to go.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Well, the book is called Recall Newsom, The Case Against America's Most Corrupt Governor, and you can just go to recallnewsombook.com or just Google Recall Newsom Book, and it'll come up. And, I've held 30 events across the state and signing books, and it's just amazing the energy that folks have. I've never seen anything like it, the enthusiasm behind this movement. And I'm also on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram under Kevin Kiley, CA.
Assemblymember Kevin Kiley, thanks for the update. We'll do it again real soon.
My pleasure. Thanks very much.
That was, again, Assemblymember Kevin Kiley from Rockland, California, which is up there in the way north, the hinterlands of the country, giving us update on that. And along with Assemblymember James Gallagher, sued and won in court to start peeling down the draconian lockdown measures and unconstitutional, as the judge found, just ridiculous stuff that we've been on. So this is, along with recalling Gavin Newsom, because this is important. Not only are the midterm elections, 2022, we can take back Congress, all 80 seats of the California Assembly where James Gallagher and Kevin Kiley serve in the state of California are up for election. Half of the Senate, there's 40 seats in the Senate, 20 of them are up. But every year, every 2 years, just like at the Congress of the United States, every 2 years we can elect or unelect all 80 members of that assembly. So like I said, there are term limits. They're called elections. And on top of recalling the governor, it doesn't stop there, because there's over a 2/3 majority of both in the Assembly and the Senate in the state of California are Democrats. Even if we put a governor in, if the Democrats line up, which they usually do, they can override a governor's veto. So even though we get to that's what I'm saying, just doing the recall of Newsom, and even if we are successfully, which we will be, in getting him out of office, that's only the beginning of the work. So along with that line, Rick Grinnell, which was Donald Trump appointed to as ambassador to Germany, and then later to the cabinet as national intelligence advisor, was on Fox News. He's a native California. Well, I don't know. He's a resident of California. I don't know if he's a native, but he's a resident of California. Still is. He started Capital Partners, but then he went on to work in the Trump administration and all that. He's been rumored to be looking very seriously at making a run for governor. But on top of that, he was on Fox News, and we're going to run a couple clips on there. He was talking about why residents flee California as Newsom's lockdowns destroy the economy. Here's Rick Grinnell with Trey Gowdy on Fox News.
Me. Yes, sir. I want to first make sure I'm right on my facts. Are people, in fact, leaving California in fairly large numbers? And if that is true, why?
Yeah, it's a sad truth. If you've been to California lately, you will see homeless people everywhere. You will see rolling blackouts. You will see the fact that we're being asked to conserve water even though we live on the ocean. Look, this is a real big problem that's been happening for about 9 or 10 years.
There you go. That's the first part of the clip going on. Yes, it has been a real problem back and forth on this deal for many 90 when Prop 98 was passed by the teachers union and killed all of our economy on that. But it is homelessness. Like 4 times, we're 12% of the population. We have 47%, almost 4 times more homeless than our population. Almost half of the homeless in the whole United States are in California. That's directly because of the policies of the George Gascons, Chelsea Bowman, Gavin.
This is just a simple mismanagement problem. And by the way, there's a whole bunch of Bernie Sanders voters who also are signing the petition to get rid of Gavin Newsom. We've got about 33% of the people that have signed the petition are either Democrats or declined to state, non-Republicans. And so they recognize this is just a simple mismanagement of the state.
There you go. And there was a confirmation of that. 33% of the 2 million figures, 2 million signers on the recall, 2 million and counting, signers on the petition to recall Gavin Newsom are either registered Democrat or Republican. Now, that is significant. As we said, and as we talked to Assemblymember Kiley, it's not just the feared and evil white guy. It's not just Trump supporters. In Imperial County, on the border of Mexico and California, I think almost 2/3 registered Hispanic. Some of the poorest areas, along with that, farm workers, lower than the average medium income area, Donald Trump. In 2020, they voted 37% for Donald J. Trump. A 10% increase in that area. But we're told, oh, these communities don't, they're all they're scared of Trump. No, they recognize that Trump was giving them opportunity. Real opportunity. And this goes all the way from the border, in practically every border county from California to Texas. Trump increased substantially his vote from 2016 to 2020. You know what? People love success. People love freedom and the opportunity to live their lives as they see fit. When people like Joe Biden, Gavin Newsom, George Gascon try to turn you into a serf, into a slave, they're saying not no, but hell no. So one last clip I want to play from Rick Gurnell with Trey Gowdy on Fox News. Here we go.
Within the swamp of Sacramento, it's really important that the Sacramento types really understand what the outrage is from people. I have friends in my community who campaigned for Gavin Newsom, Democrats who have now become the block captains for the recall effort. This is not about Democrat, Republican, or decline to state. This is about watching California slip to last place in the post-COVID world. You can't go to church. You can't go to school. You can't. We're not eating indoors. Think about that. We're the last state where you cannot eat inside. This is a real disaster for many Californians, and California should be the leader of the country.
Yes, we should. And we were. Until these goofy policies have destroyed us. Now, I've told the story many times. And I think it was in 2020, about in the middle of the year, when Trump appointed when Rick Gurnell was serving as ambassador to Germany, and Trump made him acting national intelligence director. And after he signed the document, made it official, his staff looked at him and said, "Congratulations, you did a first." And he said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He said, "You just signed the first openly gay person as a cabinet member to the President of the United States." And he goes, "What?" He didn't even know Rick Gurnell was gay. But if you listen to that, Rick Gurnell said, "In my community, precinct captains, organizers that supported Gavin Newsom are now organizing to recall him because now they are awakening. They've seen what success was under Donald J. Trump. Now they're seeing the failure of the Gavin Newsoms, the Andrew Cuomos, the Joe Bidens, the Kamala Harrises. The country is seeing that. I said you're going to get $5 a gallon of gas. You elect Joe Biden across this country, because it started here with AB 32 and the climate change, and we're all going to die, and global warming and carbon credits and it was all designed to beat you down and make you dependent on them. But what they didn't count on was the spirit and the drive of not only Californians, but the American people. And the engine, I say, is going to drive that, and we better not drop the ball. And why I say we got to nationalize this recall election of Gavin Newsom is we got to get him out. We got to take the bull by the horns, and we got to start fixing California, from California to New York, all across the nation, and get the job done. I don't know. There we go. Get the. Oh, maybe we'll do that a new outro music on that. We'll be back tomorrow.